Did you know that you can now create GitHub issues from Copilot Chat in github.com? Let's imagine we're part of the product team behind Copilot Airways, and we're assigning work to the engineering team. We've written a new product requirements document for user reviews on the travel guide. But the team stores these documents in Notion. Let's ask Copilot to create a GitHub issue with that information and a link to the Notion document so they have traceability of the request. The Copilot coding agents can be assigned issues right from this view in Copilot Chat. Copilot acknowledges the assignment and gets to work by creating a pull request. But how will Copilot be able to access the product team's documentation in Notion? That is where the Model Context Protocol comes in. Aside from native tools like reading files, making code edits, running builds and tests, you can provide Copilot access to external tools using MCP, just like we are doing here with Notion. Here, you can see it used multiple tool calls to gather the information from Notion, which were then incorporated into its workflow. And if we navigate across to GitHub Actions, you can see that the MCP servers and associated tools are configured when Copilot is being set up. Once Copilot has completed its work, we can review the code in the pull request. However, this looks like a fairly sizable set of changes, so I could go back to the pull request and see how Copilot has summarized the changes it has made, allowing me to have the appropriate context going into a review. To learn more about the Copilot coding agent, check out gh.io/copilot/coding-agent.
This is truly the power of building alongside an AI tool that just works. I want to show you how to build a front-end project with GitHub Copilot, and what better way to do that than to build a React client. I can come in here and open up Copilot Chat and ask, tell me about the configuration setup in the React app. It will give me a detailed description of all the code that's already in our directory. I'm going to bring in Christopher to help us build faster.
Fortunately, GitHub Copilot Chat has an ability to allow us to edit multiple files at one time. Whenever you're working with Copilot, you can take a look at what it's done and provide additional suggestions. So you don't need to bundle everything up into one huge prompt.
Wow, we just built a fully functional MVP of the application in a short time with GitHub Copilot.
I want to push this repository to GitHub. But again, remember, in agent mode, before we had the MCP support, this isn't something the agent could go and do. It couldn't create a repository. We have this .vs code folder, and then we have this mcp.json file. This is where we configure the MCP servers that are available. So what tools the agent can go and use for this repository, for this project. So we can see that there's one server. Now there's different types. You can see we can do stdio, server-sent events or SSE, and then of that stdio, we can run things like npm packages, pip packages, Docker images as well, or we can just run the local commands and then just passing in that argument then. So I can just hit start on that. And when I open up chat, we can click on this wrench icon for tools, and you can see we've got a number of different tools available here. If we're interacting with GitHub, we of course need to authenticate. So I need to generate a personal access token. Please do not store that in source code. Do not store that path in your code. So we can see that is used then as part of this environment variable for this MCP server. So I've generated a token that has certain permissions and that I'm comfortable giving it, and then it can go and do things based on that token. I could go and say something like, so being super clear there. We want it to be true, private, yeah, and auto init false. Looks good. And so when we look at this, we can start seeing all of the different things that it can go and do. So it can push multiple files to a GitHub repo in a single commit. I'm going to go and go to strategy app, add that, my terminal. And I could have used the agent to go and push up the files for me if I wanted as well. But now when we refresh, we should see, there we go. We've got our repository.
Hi everyone, I'm Kadesha and welcome to Open Source Friday, the show where we talk to maintainers about the apps that they're maintaining. Super excited for today's episode. As usual, we're talking to Ulysses from Tesseral, the open source Auth infrastructure for SaaS application. Super intrigued by the story because I've been obsessed with learning about SaaS applications and watching developers and non-developers build application with vibe coding and AI tools and so on and so forth. Now I'm gonna pop Ulysses on, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. Hey, welcome to the stream.
Oh, yeah, it's Ulysses.
Okay. Ulysses, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing good. And thank you all for joining us today. I see quite a few people on this stream joining us from all over the world. So we're just going to hop right into the conversation because one thing to know about Open Source Friday is it goes fast, especially when you're having a lot of fun. So tell us about yourself. Who are you and how did you get to Tesseral?
Yeah. So my name is Ulysses. I'm the co-founder and CTO of Tesseral. How I got here. Well, I started coding when I was like 14. Both my parents are software engineers, so that wasn't a big surprise. And I went back and checked GitHub, actually. I think my first project was a chess AI, way before AI was very cool. And then I studied computer science at Berkeley. And then I went to work at Segment, which since has been acquired by Twilio. And when I was at Segment, I worked a lot on, generally speaking, like authentication infrastructure and security sort of related software, mostly in service of helping Segment make our biggest customers happier. And it was from what I saw at Segment that I decided to make Tesseral. Because I sort of realized that making like B2B software, enterprise software is not at all easy. It's really easy to do things wrong. And there weren't great solutions for like doing this sort of stuff, specifically if you're making B2B SaaS, and especially if you wanted an open source option. So that's sort of where like the path was to getting to Tesseral.
Nice. And so tell us about Tesseral and what specific pain, I guess, it solves for developers.
Yeah. So Tesseral makes open source user and authentication management software, which basically means if you make software that you sell to businesses, you can use Tesseral as an open source way to add everything you need for how your users log in, how you manage how users are allowed to log in, and sort of all the accoutrements that go with just having an answer for how do people authenticate, how do I like secure my application so that users can use it securely. And so we do this specifically for people who sell software to businesses. And so like that comes with its own set of like problems that we're focused on addressing.
Got you. And so like how is Tesseral different from, let's say, different or similar to like Auth or Clerk or even Supabase Auth?
Yeah. I will say I know many of the folks that like work on this stuff. So I just want to preface it by saying like these guys are and gals are lovely people.
Yeah.
And I like what they do. So one of the ways it's different is we are entirely open source. A different way in which it's different is that, so for instance, you mentioned Auth 0, I'm not sure what people call it in practice, that they've since added support for B2B software. But there's like really big differences between making the next Facebook versus making the next Salesforce in terms of like how that affects how your business sort of handles authentication. And so by being really focused on just the B2B thing, what we can do is we can be opinionated. And by being opinionated, we can make it really, really easy for engineers to implement Auth really quickly. And so I think that's the biggest difference I would emphasize is open source and easy, just like straightforward.
Mm-hmm. Got you. And so, tell us about like the example types of applications that Tesseral would be um, correct for, a fit for, versus
Mhm.
ones that it wouldn't be a fit for, like just like example apps to make
Totally.
super clear. Yeah.
So the great fit is if you sell software to like your customer isn't like one person, it's sort of like the company they work for. As a maybe one example, Facebook is not one of our customers, just to be clear. But Facebook.com or Instagram.com, when you're just using it as a normal individual, that's not really what we're trying to do. But there's this whole other side. It's actually like I think the majority of the code inside the company is like the ads platform. Like
Right.
companies can go and run ads on Instagram. And I think you can do that as an individual too, but you're like basically like a small business from their perspective. But like Procter and Gamble runs a lot of ads on
Right.
Facebook. Procter and Gamble does not want the same things that I want when I just want to make sure I don't like lose my Facebook account. That's sort of the difference. It's a really, it's much more suit and tie, kind of like boring
Yeah.
authentication stuff, but it's related to solving problems that stem from my customer is a corporate entity as opposed to an individual, because individuals just need different things, and your priority is like helping them remember their password versus a business is like, hey, when I offboard someone from my company, I want to be able to quickly revoke access to like the Facebook ads platform so that they don't like, do something nefarious. That's just like not a problem you need in consumer software.
Really?
This is like a business problem.
Gotcha. So it's just different customer journeys essentially, and you're more focused on the enterprise side of it.
That's right. As long as you like when you sell to businesses, be they small or
Yeah.
enterprises.
Okay. So let's see Tesseral in action. I'm gonna bring up the demo that you brought, and you can take it away for now.
Sure. This is our GitHub repo. I'm just gonna plug the fact that we are big fans of GitHub. But I made a little, I vibe coded actually, a little demo. Like this is like meant to be a stand-in for B2B software writ large. And I made it as a poor man's GitHub issues actually. So I can do like lorem ipsum. So like this is just like a simple application where you can be logged in and create issues. And you can see here on the bottom left, it knows who I am. I created a separate GitHub alt. I hope that's okay. Just for this demo. And you can see in here, there's like this user settings and this logout button. If I go in the user settings, I can see all sorts of stuff that like is like things you need to build every time you make a B2B app. Places where I can like, register like, those like QR codes with the numbers, those are called like time-based one-time passwords. So you can register that stuff. And you kind of need to do this because eventually when your customers is like, hey, can I have MFA? And it's like, yeah, you can, but you have to like build out all this stuff. And the way all of this works is using Tesseral. So actually like, I'll pull up the code that does this little thing at the bottom left. This is the like component that's rendering that. And you can see from my front end, I just needed to do like use user, and I get back the current user. And I have on them like their profile picture, their name, their email. And this email is definitely a verified email. And the way that I did this is by sort of just doing use user. And then I wrapped my entire code base in a Tesseral provider. And this Tesseral provider is actually doing a ton of heavy lifting. And that's like why I was talking before about like, we make this really, really easy. It's like this component is doing an awful lot of work for folks. So for instance, I can like log out and I have a login flow here. This login flow is happening from the Tesseral provider. I can like log right back in, just to, I don't know, demonstrate that it works. And like, you didn't have to code up a login flow. The Tesseral provider does it.
It's just a component.
Yeah.
Nice. How did you keep going. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, how did you decide to come up with that architecture? Like, how did you decide to build it like that?
Because I really wanted it to exist. It's like, why is no one doing it? Like, you could just do this. Yeah, I mean, just to like make this clear, the way it's working actually is that this Tesseral provider is hooked up to the Tesseral console. So this is where most of the magic is happening actually. So you don't need to
Okay, got you.
like write code related to all like your login methods here. So like, for instance, I'm going to go back and log out.
Yeah.
You have this like login page here. That login page is actually powered on a domain that we call the Vault. So this whole domain here, vault.issuetracker.fyi, this is my little like vibe coded app. This is actually an alias for Tesserals. And so we run this domain for you. And so that lets us do things like, for instance, let me like change the color of the application. I'll just make it be like a very purple. And I can go back here. And so now the branding is automatically changed. I can do things like, for instance, I could change the login methods. So if you wanted to add login with Google, you could do that just like this. And now you have login with Google. And I'm debating whether I should do this login right now. I'm in an incognito tab. I don't actually know what's going to happen if I try to do that. But yeah, well, let's just do it. Cowabunga. I think it's going to need a passkey.
Probably.
Hopefully this works. We're live coding here. Oh, it just went through. I think it's because I did. Oh yeah, but so here's an interesting thing. This is like another like B2B problem. When you add login methods to your app, your customers that are like big companies do not want that to just like happen to them. They want to like opt into each individual authentication method you have. But if you're like this, in this case, it's fine. Like, let me just show you. This company I was previously logging in as, this like Ulysses Corp, which is my evil organization. I don't know. I can just like opt it in to log in with Google. And then now I'm going to try to do the login flow again. Oops, I'm going to type in login all the way. And I try to do, let me actually start from the very top just so you can see it happening. You see how like it automatically redirected you to the login flow. So this is like another thing that like you don't need to write, is like you don't need to write logic that is like, what if user isn't logged in? It's like the user's always logged in. You added the Tesseral provider, which makes sense for business software. And so now I think I'm logged in really as me. Yeah. And I'm a owner of this organization. I'm the one who created it. So I actually have a lot of stuff that I can do because I'm the owner of the company, so to speak. Like I can go and change the login methods that my employees are allowed to use. I can like allow them to register passkeys. I can make MFA required. I can go and look at, this is my GitHub alt, and this is me. I can go and, for instance, do things like remove users or like reassign their permissions. So like role-based access control, that might've been something you've heard of. This is already built out for you. So I can see that my alt is only allowed to create issues because they have the QA role. And then if I go back to myself, I have the engineering role. So I'm allowed to create issues, but also update them, which I don't know. That's just like how I like sort of coded it up in this example app, but you can do any sort of permission structure this way. You can also like, invite people. And what's cool is that, again, all of this stuff, this is running on the Vault domain here. So I didn't have to code any of this. It all sort of like comes right out of the box. And it just happens, like the only thing you need to do is implement this like Tesseral provider component to get all this stuff.
And so like how is,
go ahead.
Keep going.
I was going to say, you know, I can just like rattle off more stuff that you're getting. This stuff, you know, it like when you need it type of thing. You can, for instance, create API keys. If like, so for instance, at GitHub, you know, you can like create issues by just clicking around and then, well, you guys now have like the MCP stuff too, but you can also just like directly curl against like a REST API. And so you can do that with this, I'm not sure I'm going to go through all the flow because then I have to like pull up a terminal and all that stuff. But like you can go and like my cool API key, make it be a key that expires in like a week, and then you can get an API key here that you could then use to hit like the issue tracker.fyi API and programmatically create or mark done tickets. And you can like even like make like API keys be scoped to only having the QA permissions as opposed to the engineering permissions. And all this stuff comes with like an audit log. So like, okay, I can see that I just assigned a role to this API key. I can also see that I created the API key right here. So I suppose I just talked for a long time. But what I want to get at is that this is all stuff that is like very run of the mill. It's like table stakes stuff for a lot of business software. And there's very little differentiation here. Like kind of everyone eventually builds roughly this. And so what we're doing at Tesseral is we're sort of just giving you the whole like auth enchilada without making you have to implement it yourself. You can just sort of add one component to your front end and then like all of this stuff is done for you.
Nice. Nice. And so more on the technical side, what are some of those key components that just brings everything together?
Yeah, so you're looking at one of them, which is the fact that everything we do it on this domain here that is actually sort of, it's doing two things. It's a UI that you can choose to use to like give your customers like a UI for managing like, you know, all their auth settings and stuff. And then there's also a bunch of APIs that under the hood are available to you so that from your front end, you can do things like know who the current user is or programmatically be able to. So for instance, one thing I didn't emphasize previously, but you can go into the sidebar. There was like a log out button. We give you this hook. And so we like return like a function that you can call and it would like log you out. Under the hood, this is using an API that is running on your Vault domain. So it's sort of like, this is the sort of like the technical sort of like trick. Most of our customers truthfully don't think about this abstraction too often because it sort of just works. But that is like the core trick we use to be able to give folks like a really, really simple implementation story, like one that you can get done in a day. And then the other aspect of it is that everything we do, so like Tesseral works a lot like Stripe or GitHub actually, where like everything you can do from this console, there's an API for it too. And so that sort of let you do things that like, you know, you're like kind of like a god when you're inside the console here. You can go and like manage your customers. And so for instance, if one of your customers is like, I don't want to deal with a lot of like big companies expect you to be able to just do things from the back end for them. And so this is your back end where you can go and do things like, hey, can you like make the Ulysses Carry-On alter ego like an engineer now? Or like, yeah, and you can be like, yeah, sure, I can just go do this and like assign them the role. Or like remove the role from them. And so it's this sort of like can act as a way for you to sort of manage just like the day-to-day stuff that is like not at all sexy about like selling to businesses where they just need you to do things for them. And so like with Tesseral, you just write like one line of code in your code base, and then you actually get all this functionality built in for you. And we've been seeing that folks like really like that, like the auth, like it really just makes the whole auth thing go away.
Yeah, because you're managing it for them. So I'm curious what type of storage or backend option Tesseral supports, if that's even something that you support.
Yeah. So under the hood, Tesseral is open source software. Like just to bring it home, like here's our repo. We love it a lot. And everything we do is self-hostable. So in fact, I'll just pull up the docs for this just so you can, in case you're the sort of person who thinks in terms of, where did I put it? Self-hosting Tesseral. you can just like run everything. And basically the only storage that matters is a Postgres database. All these other things, they're just like very simple, easy to deploy, like Docker containers that just talk over like the network to a database. And then we're right now working on the only like really important dependency we have on an outside system is we need something to do key management, which is basically like, how do you like in a very secure way handle cryptographic keys? And so Amazon has a service called Key Management Service. Google has a service called Key Management Service. And so like we're currently working on making it so that you can literally use any cloud, because they all roughly do the same thing. It's just like, hey, can you please encrypt these bytes? And it's like, sure, here's the encrypted bytes. And then like, hey, can I decrypt it later? So we're currently working on making this swap outable. That should land in like, call it a week.
Nice.
But yeah, the core of it is just a Postgres database. So if that's something you know how to deploy, you know how to deploy Tesseral, and you can run it inside your cloud. We've also seen folks, like one unexpected use case is a lot of folks write software that is like self-hostable. Like they already write software that they give to their customers and have them run it inside their cloud. What you can do with Tesseral is you can like use the same auth both in your cloud offering that runs inside your cloud and in your customers' clouds by sort of just taking Tesseral, bundling it all up, and adding it to the set of things that you give to your customer to deploy inside their cloud. It's like a fairly sort of advanced use case, but this is like a real problem for folks that like make, like for instance, GitHub Enterprise Edition is a good example of this, right? Like that's something that runs on like per customer, right? You could use Tesseral as sort of like how Auth works, even in your sort of cloud, like customer cloud deployments.
Nice.
Yeah.
You had a comment about the dashboard. Someone says like, who designed the dashboard? They're a really big fan of it.
I'm very touched. It's one of our, I wrote the first version of the dashboard. It required a redesign. So the name of the individual is Blake Williams, a very talented man. It's largely like ShadCN for what it's worth.
Nice.
We have joined the ShadCN monoculture here at Tesseral.
Yeah. I mean, it's really good. You know what I mean? If it works, it works.
Yeah. It would have been Twitter bootstrapped like 10 years ago, but
yeah,
all hail ShadCN.
ShadCN. Okay, so how customizable is the login flow that Tesseral provides? Can a developer bring their own UI or their logic easily into the platform?
Yeah, so you can build your own UI for this. I'm not going to demo this right here, right now, because it's a little tedious. But in the sense of like, there's code and it's like not the most exciting code, but like here, I'll just sort of show everything that we do. So like this like place where I was like showing the list of users inside my organization. You can also just call an API from your front end and you can get back all the users. This is literally the API that like this like pre-built UI is calling. Like this is this. It's the same thing. So I guess the long and short of it is you can just entirely build your own UI if you want to, need to, whatever. In terms of other ways in which it's customizable, so the authentication scheme here, there's a bunch of stuff that isn't the most exciting stuff to build out. So for instance, we have like SAML SSO and Enterprise OIDC SSO. These are like protocols that big companies use in order to log into software. There's SCIM provisioning stuff. So this is a way for companies to like offline, like bulk create and delete users when they sort of hire people and let people go or have them like change departments. This sort of stuff is like built in for you. And those are login flows where there really isn't typically much of a UI, to be honest. Like when you log in with SAML, you're just sort of like teleported into the application. And so we give you the APIs that you can have your customers point to sort of like automatically be logged in.
Nice.
So that's another way in which it's like customizable. I also showed, I think, like, you can turn login methods on and off, and that just like works.
Right.
That's depends what you mean by customized, but yeah.
No, got you. Just like, can we do something different that from what the app provides? Essentially. Yeah. And so like, let's say I'm using Tesseral for the first time and I added that component to my application. What does the onboarding and user experience look like for somebody that's integrating Tesseral into the app for the first time?
Yeah, the onboarding experience looks like so first of all, we can just like give you like a starter kit like project if you just want to use that. But the onboarding experience looks like you sign up for Tesseral, you create a new project, like you would go, I have so many projects that we don't apply for this. You can see a lot of them are just like dummy placeholder ones, but like you could create a new project. This is not a crazy UI for everyone else. We just need to add a scroll bar. And you would go, I'm not going to do it right here, right now, because there is like, I don't know. I'm just nervous about like losing track of what I'm doing on this like live stream. But you would do that. You would turn on and off whatever login methods you want. And that's kind of it for like your front end. Like you have everything related to auth just sort of like done for you. I'm not joking when I say that most folks get this done like in a morning.
Wow.
The other aspect of this that is like, so it's like that's like the visible part of auth. There's also like your backend needs to like be able to actually like enforce authentication. That's not as like visual of a thing, but again, just to like go like, let's say you were writing something in Flask. I don't know how many of your viewers are going to know about Flask versus any other.
I love Flask.
Flask is great.
People love Flask. Yeah.
You do this. You write one line of code here. Well, you have to write 2 lines of code. Sorry, you need to import our package. And then you just add, hey, please authenticate requests that go by. And now all of your requests are authenticated. If you ever want to know which company you're talking to, you call organization ID. And like, that's kind of it. So like, you were talking before about like, what's the difference with Tesseral versus other things? The difference is, among other things, the fact that like, I'm not like, there's nothing up my sleeve here. Like, this is it. This is all people do.
That's it.
And we can do this because we know what you're doing. You're making B2B software, and B2B software always does the same thing. It's like, there's only one way to do this sort of stuff. And so we sort of just like built it for you. And we can like give you really, really obvious abstractions. Incidentally, abstractions that like Claude Code, I've anecdotally noticed, really likes working against this abstraction, because it's like, yeah, I'll just like naively call organization ID and I can trust that the value is legit. And it's like, yes, you can.
Nice.
So yeah.
Cool. I don't think the questions I see are related, so I'm gonna ask my questions again. Does Tesseral have any SDKs or CLI tools to streamline integration? Like, can you do this from your terminal?
Yeah. So from the terminal, not really, to be honest. It's not really like
okay.
It's not. So what you can do is you can curl against all of our APIs if you want to like if you want to programmatically manage. Looks like someone signed up during the demo.
Nice.
So yeah, I made this app open to sign up for anyone if you wanted to play with it. So we have SDKs in a bunch of languages. I can show the repos, or you know what, it might just be simpler if I just expand this. You can see we have SDKs in a ton of languages. We're adding more. And the integration story for all of them is like kind of the same thing every time. And then also like, I mean, yeah, that's the short answer is like, yeah, these languages here, we have React, Node, we have like Express, Flask, Fast API, Django, Axum in Rust, if you're one of the cool kids who uses Rust, Next.js, and we're adding a bunch more actually. So I think we'll have like .NET ASP Core,
wow,
and Ruby on Rails. Yeah,
really going down the gamut of languages.
yeah. We use a company called Fern. They're also open source to sort of like programmatically generate our SDKs. So it's actually quite straightforward. Yeah, like these docs here, where it's like, yeah, there's like a ton of endpoints for like absolutely everything you can do in the API. You can also do programmatically. All of these we can programmatically generate the SDKs in all of the different languages we support. It doesn't actually take any engineering effort because it sort of just gets like code gen for us.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like how it's
amazing.
possible for us to have all these SDKs.
That's amazing. I'll need to have Fern on the show as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they want to be called out on that one, but yeah, that's what we use them for.
I mean, that's pretty cool. So another question I have for you is, okay, let's get into the security because this is all about Auth, right? So how is Tesseral handling data privacy and compliance, and especially for teams who go the self-hosted route?
Yeah, so when you are self-hosting, like it's just yours. Like we don't like phone home or anything. So basically you can be as private as you like. We even have folks that are looking at using us in like air-gapped environments where like their deployment is to like domains that only exist within like an intranet. And that would be for like use cases where only people inside of like a large organization, like a company or a government agency, for instance, could be able to like access an application. If you want to do that fancy stuff, you can do that. Like the sort of the point of Tesseral being so like simple to deploy is it's rather straightforward to figure out a lot of this stuff. In terms of like how the security of the thing works, I mean, I mentioned like KMS. So for instance, like the Tesseral's design is such that like if somehow an attacker like had read-only access to your database, they would know how many customers you have. And like, that's kind of it. You can't like log in as someone just from having read-only access to the database. You would additionally need to have access to the key management service, which is usually like a much more tightly guarded sort of access layer for most deployments. The API keys that we give you as a service, those are 256-bit API keys, which like would be pretty challenging to brute force. By pretty challenging, I mean like end of the universe, like amount of time required. Our access tokens are JSON web tokens, which I don't know if you're familiar with those, but those are like sort of a way to sort of authenticate people on the internet. That's pretty common. And for those, we use ECDSA. So that's elliptic curve cryptography. Like fairly like standard sort of stuff that everyone that sort of knows what they're doing eventually converges on. And yeah, we also have like a fairly robust sort of security program. We've like worked with pen testers. We have like security@tesseral.com for like responsible disclosure stuff. Yeah, I don't know. We take that stuff like pretty seriously, but I'm not sure how to like talk about it. You know, like you kind of I think this is one where we like to like walk the walk rather than like talk too much about like throwing ourselves in this front.
Yeah, I guess like one way you could share is like, okay, so like what are the like 2 or 3 security principles or best practices that's like built into Tesseral? That's like the foundation. Yeah.
So a lot of here's like a simple one that seems simple, but like when you use Tesseral's SDKs, when you add the Tesseral provider and the Tesseral middleware on your backend, we will enforce authentication, and your code does not get called if we can't authenticate the request. That matters a lot because, for instance, a lot of other sort of providers out there, I'm going to go back to the Flask example. We were looking at this sort of like organization ID thing. A lot of Auth products that don't know you're doing B2B Auth, like when you use Facebook.com, there's such a thing as like a logged out version of Facebook where you can like see a group, but you can only see some of the details or something. And then there's additional details that you'll be able to see if you're logged in. And that makes a lot of sense for consumer software where you need to like optimize for Google. And, most of your application has like a logged out and a logged in version, and you're careful to choose which path to go down. In business software, that's not very common. The vast majority of business software, it's like you're logged in or you're getting the login page. There's no sensible public version of like my user details screen or my like list GitHub personal access tokens page. Like those, you need to be logged in every time. And so a lot of auth vendors that don't know you're doing B2B software will handle the possibility of you not being logged in. And this like organization ID might come back as like a Python none. And that seems like an innocuous thing, but it's actually kind of a pain for most developers that make business software. Because for instance, if you take that none that you got back from organization ID and you pipe it into like, I'm gonna like just like riff a little bit on like real world Python, like serious security vulnerabilities where people write like, they like pass the organization ID into like a where clause in their ORM, right? So they'll do like, give me all access tokens where organization ID equals organization ID parentheses. In Tesseral, that is safe because you will get back a string and it is the right string. But if we weren't focused on B2B auth and a lot of other sort of SDKs, they'll give you back a string or none. And then if it turns out to be a none and you didn't anticipate that possibility, your ORM will be like where thing equals none. Some of them will like will check if it's null. Others will be like, I'm just going to ignore this condition and just return to you all the access tokens. And this is so dumb, but this happens all the time. There's variations that can come up where like a join fails to filter out data properly. And so you accidentally return a bunch of extra data that way. And so I'd say like one important security principle that we have at Tesseral is we make the obvious way to do something the secure way to do something. And so we will do quite a bit of extra legwork if it's required to do that. But so for instance, in Tesseral, organization ID is definitely coming back as a string. Other things, you can get the user's like email address. So you can do like claims.user.email. There are so many products where this email might not be verified. You also have to check another property that's like, if email.is verified. That's not how Tesseral works. Emails, if they make it to your software, are always verified. So you can be sure that if something happens to this user and you email them programmatically using this email address, you're not sending that data to an attacker. You're sending it to someone who really does have access to that email address. This sort of stuff, it's like, it's not at all like, it's kind of boring, It's just like, oh yeah, the email is just verified. But like, it's this dumb stuff that people trip on all the time. It's not the big elaborate, like, oh, like nation state attacker problems. It's like, oops, this path didn't check whether email is verified correctly, and I accidentally like leaked data. So we're really preoccupied with making it just like really straightforward to get this stuff right.
Yeah, and it's also the dumb stuff that causes the biggest issue sometimes.
Yeah, it's the dumb stuff that
biggest data leaks.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it many times. It's always the dumb stuff that like, then you have to like send like a super embarrassing email. You have to do like the PR and stuff. And you have to like massage how to like carefully in a way that makes you seem less, like that makes it seem less dumb than it really was, to be like, you didn't verify the email properly in this one.
Did not verify the email.
And now
honestly,
I need to send
I
an
wish
email.
companies were more honest. Like, we just didn't implement this thing, because then it's just, oh, I understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's funny too, because like, yeah, if you like only look at PR, you'll like think that this stuff is always the craziest stuff. And then like, between professionals, like, over beers after work, it's always just like, man, it was the email verified field. Once again, we got hosed by that thing for the 5th time. It's
Crazy.
Always the dumb stuff. So yeah, I think, it's not at all a sexy answer, but yeah, that is the honest truth, is like, we're really preoccupied with like our security principle for our customers is like, especially with AI, it's even more relevant. It's like the naive, obvious way to do something is in fact the right way to do it. We're really preoccupied with like removing the sharp edges that you can trip on, that like sort of like, cause you to have a very sad day.
Yeah. So I have a question here from someone. They said, can you walk me through how user impersonation works in Tesseral and how is it configured?
Yeah. So the way user impersonation works is you can go to any user from the console. Oops, this is not the console. This is the experience when you're logged in as a customer inside your product. And then you as an engineer can go into an organization and you can go to the users here. And then I can look at like my alter ego and I click this button And this button, ooh, I think the stream overlay, hold on, no, I can't. Okay, thank you. I can click this impersonate user button. And what that'll do is it'll sort of log me in as that user for like a temporary session that I can't renew. So you'll get about 5 minutes of access as that user by default. To sort of be able to, and like log in as them. In terms of like how it's configured, there isn't configuration per se. You sort of, once you've implemented Tesseral inside your application and the Tesseral is deployed in production for your product, what this will do is it'll generate a access token that is, for most of the code's purposes, the same thing as just being logged in, so that like your existing backend will sort of work out of the box. I will say it's a little bit of a fancy thing, but I'll just like quickly plug it. So like a lot of products, when you are impersonated, they'll like show you like a warning reminding you like, hey, you are impersonating someone right now. This is not the real person. Our code does, if you really want to know, give you access to whether they're impersonated, and you can do this from the backend as well. Let me see if I can give you an example. So like in the Python code, I need to be logged in for this. That's site.
I think it's because of the
I think that particular link is not working. I'll go and am I be able to like just do this off I don't think I will be able to. Okay. I think I was a little too bold there and not able to, under the gun, find the code fast enough. Can I? Come on. Go to node. Access token claims.ts. Like this is the data you get back on a current user. You can know if it's an impersonated session. So you can do this. So with this is something we did at Segment. The vast majority of things you could do if you were impersonating someone, but there were certain super critical actions that even if you were an operator of the system and you were impersonating someone, we would not let you do certain operations as them. And you can implement that sort of logic yourself because you have access to that information. You can go into access token impersonator and like this will tell you the email of the person at your company, so that like this could implement the thing where you can have a banner being like, hey, Ulysses@tesseral.com, you are impersonating someone right now. Just like as a reminder, because sometimes people forget they're impersonating someone and then they just start doing things for their personal usage instead, and they just like accidentally put data into their customer's account. Again, it's always the dumb things. So that's, I guess this is a long-winded way of me saying like, we've thought quite a bit about this, and we think we have like a really straightforward way to get this right for folks.
Yeah, it looks very, very straightforward. And I love the having that message there, the time limit there. Is there like a countdown timer as well to indicate
you could implement that, yeah. You can know when the current session will expire. That's a little fancy, but you could definitely
Yeah. Cool. Another question is, does Tesseral support passkeys and like authenticator apps?
Yes. So we have authenticator apps and passkeys. Like just to show you how easy it is to turn on, you go to your authentication settings for your project. Oh, it's already turned on. Yeah.
Nice.
So you can, and then that'll give you like biometric logins and all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh,
so
nice.
The short answer is yes.
Nice. Does Tesseral comes for, I guess, does it have a SDK for .NET Core and Angular?
So we don't have Angular yet. .NET Core is in the works. And so that'll let you add authentication to any backend that is using like roughly the Microsoft C#, or if you're like exotic F# or whatever. Yes, it's in the works.
Nice. And the multiple questions about, is the stream recorded? Yes, the stream is recorded. You can watch the stream again on YouTube and our LinkedIn page. But as we get ready to wrap up here, Ulysses, are you okay? So do you see Tesseral, like thinking ahead, do you see Tesseral remaining an infrastructure, or do you see it becoming more of a protocol or like a hosted service?
We see ourselves as being developer tooling. And so to that extent, I would say we are a platform for developers. I think we are, like, you're looking at one right now. And we're definitely going to stay focused on making it very easy to do authentication for B2B software. And we're going to stay focused on being open source, because in the long term, the winner in this space and the best version of this product is an open source product. And so those things, I think we got them right on day one, and we're going to keep on getting them right.
Nice. And I mean, have there been any like great community contributions to Tesseral that you're just like, good choice for being open source? Yeah.
Yeah. So I will say this, it gives people a lot of confidence. We've had some folks that are like, hey, how come it works like this? And like in a shared Slack channel, and then they come back like 10 minutes later being, never mind. And it's a link to the code I wrote that I was going to just like explain in words. I can just,
nice.
So that has been really nice. It gives people a lot of confidence. And it lets people sort of like feel like they own this thing too. Our products, Tesseral, started off as just a thing for doing SAML and SCIM, which are like, this guy.
Those two,
and this guy. And when we did that, one of the first PRs that came in was someone who was like, hey, can you add support for like the DoD, like the Department of Defense, like military version of Microsoft login? And I was like, I can't log into that. Like, I'm not a member of the defense community,
Don't have clearance.
And so, but we put up the PR because I was like, I think it's just, I need to make this parameter like changeable. And I was like, how about I put up a PR and then you test it? Because I literally cannot test this unless I like make a big career shift. And it worked. And so like that was one of which it was like strange and funny. And like real value. Like,
nice. That's absolutely real value. That's awesome. Okay, so how can developers contribute to Tesseral? Do you have any issues that you want to prioritize, or where's the help needed?
Yeah. So we have, we're going to work on doing like a pass to make like good first contributor sort of issues. In the meantime, we use GitHub discussions. And so you can definitely drop in there. If you have like areas of expertise that you want to hop in on, I can like prioritize that. Separately, like all of our docs, I was like scrolling through them like this whole video. That's all open source too. And so we've had some folks that come in that just sort of contribute specifically on the docs. Yeah, I think those are like kind of like the main ways I think people can hop in. Yeah.
Nice. Pretty straightforward, guys. So I saw one more question come in about a Java SDK, if that's available.
We're working on Java as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. It seems like there is some interest in Tesseral, and it looks like it's a pretty solid product. It looks very enterprise, very corporate.
Yeah, unfortunately,
which
it
is
is.
a good thing.
Yeah. It's like the meme in this space is like I made like a to-do app, and it's like worth nothing. And it's like I made a to-do app with enterprise authentication. And it's like that'll be $2 million a year. And it like that is how it works. Like, and so it is enterprisey. You're right. I kind of own that.
But oh my goodness, how many apps are actually to-do apps?
Yeah, I mean, like GitHub Issues is arguably a to-do app.
A story, like.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Ulysses, for coming on the show. Anything else you want the folks to know about Tesseral, where to find you? Is there a Discord? All that jazz.
Yeah, we don't have a Discord. We try to be GitHub native, so just like hop in on the repo, open to discussion. That way everyone can see it. I want to thank you for your time. This has been great. You've been a lovely host. And Tesseral makes open source authentication software for B2B SaaS.
Nice. Love it. It's such a great I like that you chose that audience, because it's so niche too. How many companies are building authentication infrastructure for B2B companies specifically? You know what I mean? Because it's difficult. It's not an easy thing to do. So kudos to you and the team for building Tesseral and making it easy for developers to integrate into their enterprise software. I see someone is ready and willing to contribute to the Java SDK, so that's awesome. be sure to go and check out the Tesseral repository at gh.io/Tesseral. And I will see y'all next week for Open Source Friday. I really don't know why I do that. I just like to do that. But until next time, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Bye.